Hello, hello. Let's see if we are live here today. I I want to welcome everyone to Qualitative Wednesdays. I hope you're having a good week. We are still going through COVID-19 if you're watching this video live. Yes, we are great here. Um, we are still going through COVID 19 if you're watching this live, and unfortunately, a lot of us still have our routines very much different from what it was before this all started. I want to say I'm very happy that you're joining me today. For those of you that are watching live, for those of you who are just catching up later on, welcome. So, my name is Myra Quintanilla, and I am the CEO, the founder, and principal researcher at QualiQ. I'm super excited about today because the content and what I'm sharing with you today is really coming from my one on one work with one student. And it's very fresh in my mind. And I went through reviewing her work last week, and I really immediately thought that I had to share what I saw in her study and what I really feel is one of the issues we also face when we are talking about validity in qualitative research. I'm not going to be talking about the strategies that we can use to ensure validity in qualitative research. It's a much bigger topic than what I'm going to cover here today, but I think it will be interesting and valuable in different ways depending where you're at. If you're towards the end of your study, this will be more applicable. If you are not there yet, make sure you take some notes or you save this video and something you can watch later on when you are at the stage of writing your data and finalizing your writing of your qualitative results. Okay, so I am going to get started and we will be talking about validity. So as you know, not many people or not all qualitative researchers use validity. You will hear how rigor has been defined in qualitative research using different words and terminologies, and there is a variety of them out there that you can borrow from, that you can use, and depending on which method, qualitative method you're using, you definitely will lean towards certain ways of defining and describing rigor that align with that method. So, I want to share with you that I come from a health background, and my project was sitting pretty much in the intersect of health and social sciences. And I was trained by Maria Mayen, who was mentored by Janice Morse, who is a nurse and uses validity, reliability, and generalizability when describing rigor in her qualitative work. But of course, those words are the same ones that are used in quantitative studies, but rigor for qualitative research needs to be constructed in a different way. And of course, for all my studies, the way we describe validity is applicable and relevant to qualitative research, not quantitative research. However, I want to say that because if you're looking and thinking like, why doesn't she say trustworthiness instead of rigor or credibility instead of validity? Um, that's why. That's my background, and that's how I have used the words I have used to describe rigor. With that being said, what I'm going to share here today is applicable to all of you, no matter how you're naming and how you're calling rigor in your study. And the reason why is we really want to make sure that when we are talking about validity, what I mean when I say validity is really making sure that the findings we have in qualitative research is actually well found in our data, that we are really describing the social phenomenon or whatever our participants said in a truthful and valid, well found, and also there is another really good word, in just way. So we really want to tell whoever we are telling our results what we really found in the data, not what we think about the data, not our interpretations. And a lot of times, if you are used to publishing qualitative research, you will know this. But if you are still in the process of doing your first study or trying to publish your first study, this might be a bit newer to you. But a lot of times, what I find is that when you submit a manuscript, the first thing you hear back is, can you describe how rigor was ensured in your data collection or your data analysis? And there are lots of questions that come back from reviewers often about rigor. And I think it's one of the reasons why rigor and validity in qualitative research makes us nervous, because we are always feeling like we are being defensive. And I think that the concern about rigor is as valid in qualitative research as it is in quantitative research. It's just how it's constructed that is different. So if we're talking about validity representing that data that is well found, sound, and just, we want to make sure that our data is really reflecting what our phenomenon unfolded in front of us or what our participants said to us as researchers. So what happened? I was reviewing the study of one of my mentees, one of the students that I am working with, and I participated enough in her study to know enough about her data to actually be reading her first draft of her manuscript in a way that I looked at certain things that I saw there and I was like, oh no. I kind of put myself in that reviewer position, which I find sometimes is a much more comfortable position to be. It's always easier to criticize someone than to actually do the work. Isn't that true? Yeah, being critical is kind of like an easier job. But I told her, like, she did an amazing job with writing her results. And I told her, I was like, the one thing that I need to tell you, besides other things like results being too long and those things that happen often in qualitative research, was how I really caught certain words here and there that were an indication for me that those sentences in her result weren't coming from her participants and what they said during the interviews, but rather her perspective on the role pharmacists or certain healthcare providers could have in managing a health condition that she was investigating. So, one example I can give you that is very tangible, I caught the word should in a couple of places. So, how healthcare providers should be doing this. And I made a comment in those two instances and I told her, who is saying should here? Did your participants say the healthcare provider should do or prescribe that? Or are you the one that thinks they should be doing that? And if that's something that you think, you need to be careful here and move that to your discussion where you say the healthcare providers could be doing that, but what you found was different, and what are the implications of that? What implications you have when someone is not doing what you perceive as being their ethical or professional obligation. So the word should was one that caught my attention. And I must tell you that in the past, even with my own results, I had participants say, oh, I felt I should do this, and I didn't. And when I was writing my results, I used the word should, even though it was coming from them. And I remember one of my committee members saying, you need to really make sure that you explicitly say my participants, like participants perceived that they should be doing so and so, but weren't able to do that. So if you have that word in your findings, someone saying they should be doing something, make sure you explain that they are the one saying that, because that's a word that really implies advice, and we don't want to be giving advice in our results. That's not the place, because it's not a place for us to put our perceptions, our comments, our discussion. It is a place where we are describing the phenomenon, or we are interpreting a phenomenon, but as our data showed us. The other piece that I want to say is that what happened with her and me, and where how I caught those things, is something that I encourage all of you to do. Find someone that you trust, that is well aware of your research, but maybe not too involved, to read your results, your findings as you're writing them. And ask that person, that trusted person, can you please make sure that if you flag something that you're not sure who is saying here, or if I am actually maybe putting a bit of a discussion in my results, that the person helps you. Of course, that keep it in mind that I'm talking about a paper where we have results and discussion separately. There are publications where you can embed your discussion in your results, and if that's the case, you of course need to not completely disregard everything I'm saying, but apply that accordingly if you're doing results and discussion mixed in the results and discussion all together. So if that's the case, just make sure you understand that that's not what I'm saying here. So I told her, and I tell all of you here to really make sure that you have someone you trust to give you that feedback, to really ask you, like, okay, it sounds like this is your opinion, or can you please make sure that you explain how your participants or your data explain that, or how that was explained in your data, instead of being something that is more your position. So something to consider and keep in mind. The last thing that I wanted to say is, if you know me, or if you've been following Quality or the blog posts, you know that I do believe we have a role in advocating for our participants, in really putting our research in places where it can make a difference in our communities and societies. So I don't really shy away from the advocacy role that I believe research needs to have, absolutely needs to have in some instances. I don't think that's even a choice in most of the universities and projects that many of us are part of nowadays. So, what I'm saying here again is to make sure that you are showing rigor and validity, and showing what's coming from your data in when the place is to showcase your data. However, what I'm not saying is that there isn't a place for you to put your voice and to say healthcare providers are missing an opportunity here where they could be showcasing their work, or they could be advocating for their patients, and that's not happening in the case of this group of participants. So don't be afraid, in other words, to um, put your voice in the right place, and to use advocacy when you need to advocate, when you need to really not be afraid. And I think that's one of the most profound ways that we can make an impact, even if it's a small impact, but we can make an impact with through qualitative research. Truly believe that, and it's one of the reasons I love qualitative research. So this is basically everything I had to say today. I do have a few people that I see that are watching live. If you have any questions, this is a great time. I'm going to give you a few seconds because there is a bit of a delay. But if you have questions and you want to ask me here while we are live, you're more than welcome to ask. But if we don't have any questions or comments, I will be ending soon. So I'm gonna wait a few seconds just in case any question pops up. And I want to say as well that as we are moving forward with our work through social distancing, I think it is actually a great time to connect with your networks, with your friends, with your group of students or mentors, and give them a chance to review your work if that is where you're at, or to ask critical questions that pertain to the validity of your study at this point. And I encourage all of you to take advantage of the fact that this is something we can all do, and it doesn't matter where we are located, that those conversations can happen over Zoom, in an exchange of emails, over a phone call. And I think they are so valuable and so rich, and it's something that I highly encourage everyone to consider as we are going through what we are going with the self isolation. So I gave you a few seconds. I don't see anything, and I hear one person saying here that no questions, good job. So thank you, Magda, and I appreciate that you're all here and taking the time. And if you have any questions, post below as you watch this. And I really want to tell everyone who is part of the QualiQ for Qualitative Minds group that the Qualitative Data Analysis Masterclass is open for enrollment until next week. And if you're interested in delving into qualitative data analysis and also learning some new strategies to teach qualitative data analysis, I do have some fun activities that I'm going to try through a virtual class for the first time. And I'm excited to try. It will be delivered in the same format that we do these lives here, but it's another group. And if you are in that phase where you're assessing what type of data analysis you're going to be using, or you need to make decisions moving forward, or you're just not sure if you're being rigorous in your qualitative data analysis, I invite you to come to the website qualiq.ca. Under resources, you will be the masterclass. You will see the masterclass there, and send me an email if you have any questions. But I know that it will be really valuable, and it will be a really good opportunity to try some coding and building categories and thinking about data analysis, and also this whole discussion about rigor with the data analysis piece as well. So take good care. I don't see any questions here, and I am happy you came today, and I'll see you next Wednesday at the same time, and we will be continuing our discussions. And if you have any questions, make sure you post them, because I am happy to try to tackle them. If not, I'm not really sure yet what we'll be talking about next week. But if it's not COVID-19 related, and possibly not, there is always some touch points, but we'll see what comes to us next week. Take good care, and goodbye, everyone, and have an excellent week.